Hi, I'm Justin Starnes, Director with MarshBerry at our inaugural Ascent event. Lucky enough to be joined by both Andy Harris and Nick Loring from Kintra Wealth. If you guys could, to kick things off, go ahead and just share a little bit about your background and maybe a little bit about Kintra as well before we jump into everything.
Sure. Well, I'll start. My name is Andy Harris. I am the CEO of Kintra, and I've been working in the industry since 2002 as a financial advisor. I was with a couple different broker-dealers and branded as Evergreen Wealth Solutions about a decade ago. We converted from the BD IAR chassis to a RIA back in 2019 as the firm continued to grow. And in the beginning, like everybody else, it was me and some help with an administrative person, and then grew the firm. And at our office in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, we currently have 15 team members. We run approximately $650 million and working with clients across the country.
Yeah, hi, Nick Loring. I'm one of the managing directors at Kintra Wealth. I'm primarily based out of Smithfield, Rhode Island, with offices in Lenox, Massachusetts, and Bowling Green, Kentucky. Part of Kintra Wealth now, and very similarly to Andy. Previously we were in a different ecosystem, broker-dealer ecosystem, and based off of an acquisition, forced to look at different options. And so, knowing Andy for many years. Being in study groups together, talking with him and some of our other colleagues, we decided that the next evolution of our firm should be to join Kintra Wealth. An advisor-led, advisor-founded RIA, we've been ever since we kind of this kernel of an idea was kind of planted in our heads. We've been off and running, trying to get to this point in time where we're stood up. We have 4 other partners in addition to the 2 of us. We're spread all across the United States. One of the things that was very important to us was to be a advisor-led, advisor-founded, organization. Here going forward. So at this point in time, we're bootstrapping it ourselves, wearing many hats and have been putting together the infrastructure and the ecosystem to get this up and off the ground. And, it's been difficult at times, but overall, I think we're still we're enjoying the ride, and enjoying the builds and things like that, and hopefully, in the future here, looking to bring on some more folks to kind of see what we built and take the ride alongside with us.
I'd love to add to the origin story.
Sure.
So Nick and I and the others in our group, most of us came from a firm where we were really happy. Part of great culture, great community. We got to know each other by going to conferences. We were in the top level of production when we measured that way. And showing up at the same places for many, many years. We pulled together a study group about 4 years ago. And in doing so, we'd get together 3 times a year and a iron sharpens iron approach to how can we help each other be the best version of our professional selves for our clients' benefit. And we also made sure that we had a fair amount of fun. Mm-hmm. So, as luck would have it, about 3 weeks after the acquisition of our prior firm was announced, we had a study group meeting. And while we were there, the idea was launched that how about we just go build something great ourselves? And that's where the name Kintra came from. So if you kind of dissect that, the intra is us coming together to be more than we can on our own. And the kin comes from kinship. That idea that we want to be fiercely protective of the client-advisor relationship and the relationships we have within our firms. We're in an era of technology, and you can't go to a conference without hearing about artificial intelligence. And,
yes.
And we are firm believers that this industry and what we do is 100% about the client-advisor relationship. We're humans helping humans go on the journey of life.
Yep.
And as we go through that and we dissect those 4 areas of our lives, health, wealth, love, and purpose, we want to take care of the wealth part of our clients' lives, hopefully freeing up more bandwidth for them to be intentional about other aspects that are arguably more important than the size of their wallet.
All right.
So that kinship of going through life together and that intro together is where that name Kintra Wealth came from, and we're having a blast, a hard blast.
Right.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but that's what we're doing.
As long as we're having fun while we're doing hard work, then we're in good shape.
I've never had so much fun working 10 to 14 hours a day. So one of the things we've talked about initially is that a lot of firms are coming together in order to expand multiples in order to be able to have the opportunity to step away and to cash out and do very, very well. We love what we do, and we've been running our businesses for quite some time with no desire to step away. So what we decided to do coming together was, as part of a growth path, we will need to create the debt facility, which you've laid the roadmap out for us. But we're not interested at this point in partnering with any strategic or private equity. We want to maintain control as we build this, and we're not going to close off any opportunities down the road. But at this point, we're not coming together so that we can step away. We're coming together so that we can be together, be on this journey together, and build an enduring brand. And as part of that, we want to make sure that we gain scale and momentum with us making all the choices without outside influence before we'll entertain anybody else that will have a heavy hand in our future.
Probably the most critical aspect that we worked through on all of this was alignment. Trying to figure out the structural alignment, the cultural alignment, all of those aspects that come into play with a number of firms coming together that have been running on their own for an extended period of time. So as you think about that, are there certain aspects that were the most difficult to overcome on the alignment aspect? And is there a certain amount of confidence that you have that those won't resurface in the future?
For me, I think that the two that kind of came up that were pretty hard to work through were economic and control expectations. We were all captains of our own boats in the past. Now, you mentioned earlier that pull together. I think we had a lot of natural benefits as we had the blessing of knowing each other.
Right.
So that made things much easier, but we knew each other as captains in our own boats. So that transition into one is interesting from a control perspective. And so that was one. The other was just what was it going to look like economically, and working through those issues. But that transition from I and me to us and we, that's hard. And I think along the way, there was others that joined this journey and then opted out.
Correct.
And throughout that process, although there was some heartbreak along the way, but I think that water finds its own level, and if we're ready for this level of journey, then it's the right fit, the right people are here. And I think for me, as we've worked through those things, now that we're all here, I don't think that we have to work them again with us. What do you think, Matt?
Well, just to add on that, I would say that, when independent firms, come together, you're not just aligning on terms, you're kind of aligning on how value is measured, how decisions get made when priorities compete with each other, right? So I think just to kind of succinctly say, what Andy's been saying, it's kind of like, everybody's definition of fairness is kind of been, trying to align everybody to that same definition has been the biggest challenge. And I think that for us, how we know that this won't resurface is we've been pressure testing this ahead of time, with and we now have clear governance and we have clear decision lanes and things like that. But we've been making real decisions already under real deadlines even before we've been coming together. So having that pressure test ahead of time is proven in practice now. And it's not just on paper. And so, I feel, so naturally, and of course I'm very biased when I say this, but I feel very confident that, this will be, continue to be successful. It hasn't been easy, but I still think it'll continue to be successful.
It hasn't been easy. And to your point, what you were talking about, Andy, where some have come into the process and some have left the process, that transparency and candid nature that's required of people coming through this to be able to look at it and say, the hardest thing to do is to step out of it when you're in this with these partners and to recognize that it's not a good fit. So I feel like that was a really difficult thing for some groups to do, but the right thing for them to do, and honestly, the best thing to do for the larger group. Right. So as we look into the next phase of this, next phase being first 12 months, first 24 months that Kintra is stood up on its own, operating, what does success look like for your clients, for yourself as advisors, and for the leadership of Kintra?
Yeah, I can start with this one. I would say it's funny. I would tell you that success in the first 90 days is actually pretty boring, right? Which is interesting to say, but certainly from a client perspective, right? It means that we're maintaining continuity, but we still have improvement, right? Service is smooth, communication is proactive, all the reporting is clean. They feel all the benefits without feeling any of the friction that typically goes along with a transition. From an employee perspective, success would be clarity and confidence, right? Roles are defined, priorities are realistic. Some of the tools that we've brought into the new platform are working well. People are feeling supported.
Yep.
And then from a leadership standpoint, when I look at it from Andy and my perspective and the rest of the team, I look at it more from an execution and a rhythm standpoint, right? So the governance is functioning. All of our shared services are delivering against our KPIs. Issues are getting solved quickly, and we're spending more time improving the business than reacting to surprises that are coming along. And Andy, I don't know if you got anything else. I mean, that's just from my perspective, but for your perspective, you might have a little different slant on it.
Well, I think you nailed it. And one of the things that's interesting about this, we mentioned pulling our boats together, and now we're all in one. So a big part of this is making sure that we're right people, right seats. So now that we're on this bus, we just jumped from a boat to a bus. Now that we're on this bus and we have different seats on this bus, mine's a little bit unique as I'm now the CEO of Kintra. And in doing so, I'm thinking about three distinct outcomes. One is exactly what you said about the clients. I'd love them to know with excitement that not only is their existing relationship with their advisor and their planning team intact, but there are now deeper resources, and as things come up, there won't be a reason to look elsewhere at another firm, where in the past, there were some limitations as to what we were able to do. Mm-hmm. As we've pulled together, that client benefit is really expanding the service set, and we really want to enhance their experience over time. They're not going to see that in 90 days, but we want them to know that that's coming. And in that 24 months that you referenced earlier, we really want to be able to bring more to them as each of us is able to contribute our knowledge and our expertise and share those best-in-class resources amongst all the practices. I think that's really key. From the employee standpoint, most of us have had the opportunity to be in conferences, to be in study groups as leaders and owners of firms. We've had those benefits. Many people of our team have not had that. And a core element of what we're building at Kintra is a study group-oriented culture in which everybody is able to work with like-minded people to enhance what they're doing. We talk about iron sharpens iron, and this idea of coming together to become sharper, to be better for our client outcomes. And if that's for the traders, for the paraplanners, for our CSAs, for our associate advisors, that whole way through, I think that we'll have the opportunity to become better at what we do. And in addition to that, have expanded career optionality. Mm-hmm. And as an employee of a team member, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
From my view, I'm really looking at evaluating who are the right firms that we want to jump on this pirate ship, as you talk about it. Who is a good fit for us? We're building a special community. And this is about the culture, the community, the client experience. And in doing so, we want to make sure that we have the right people on the bus. There are tremendous opportunities for anybody in this era of consolidation to join lots of different firms, big, small, many different flavors. And we want to carve out a unique opportunity within the marketplace. Almost think a membership-oriented country club of like-minded people that want to come together to be the best that they can be, to have an awesome experience for themselves, for their further professional journeys, and really make sure that if we take care of our clients and our teams, we're going to be successful. So as we're looking across the marketplace of who's out there, we really want to be in alignment with those future firms. So 90 days from now, I'm looking forward to onboarding a couple other firms that we're already in conversations with, and really being able to, with narrow-like focus, identify who should be a part of this as we move forward.
Yeah, and I think a couple things that you talked about, Nick, just in terms of bringing it all together, I think the key term is integrated.
Yeah.
Being able to integrate all of these different, unique firms that share a common thread is really critical to getting that success out there. And I think another thing to add to this that you're talking about, Andy, is the fact that this is truly an advisor-led firm, an advisor-founded firm. And you all came from a similar background. You all came from study groups. You knew each other. You knew how each other operated ahead of time. But I think it would be helpful to share a little bit about how many firms have come together. How many founders do you have in Kintra right now? Because it's not just the two of you. There's others that are participating in this as well. And there's others that you will bring in as you look to acquire other firms as well, right?
So Justin, as you and your team took us on this journey, and it's been a great journey, but one of the things that you had mentioned, as did the tax resources and the legal resources, the different groups that we talked with did point out one of the reasons this was so hard, we'd admit it was hard, right?
Yeah, it was hard.
It's hard, was that often there's a strong alpha and many other advisors that will follow. And here this is a merger of equals. So there are 6 firms across the country that are coming together. And we did start with a couple more than that, but we've come in close alignment. How would you add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that amongst the 6 of us, there is a certain shared culture and commonality, which has kind of been the strong undercurrent of how we're able to get into alignment, right? It's as Andy already alluded to, I mean, there are some alphas here, some people who are very successful at what they do, and running their own practice, who have been started as a small seed and grown it into something big. But are looking at the landscape like we are, and just like, based on the way that the industry is going, we need to come together to create better experiences and better outcomes. Number one, for our clients, but number two, for our employees.
Right.
Employees now certainly are demanding clear pathways and more defined roles and abilities to continue to grow, that, the way that we were currently, all of us individually constituted before, we might not be able to provide to them. So for the 6 of us, for the 6 founders that are part of this group, and adding, more partners to the mix down the road, it's going to be that shared belief and that shared thing that's going to kind of continue to propel Kintra forward, and going to be kind of the core, belief system that we're going to be operating under in order to try to achieve better things collectively, as opposed to, continuing on the solo closed firm path, which we think there's some challenges coming.
It's absolutely right. Yes, yeah, it's much more of a unity approach, a shared vision as opposed to a single vision.
Yeah.
So that's great. The other thing that I wanted to dive into a little bit is, as you come together, it's really easy to start to implement different changes within the firm, but you also want to make sure that you keep that unity, that everyone's still operating in kind of a similar context to how they have been. So as I think about, what are you most intentionally trying not to change as you move into this phase of Kintra and grow from there?
Yeah, that's a great question. From my perspective, I think what we're intentionally not trying to change is the human side immediately, right? So client relationships, the day-to-day service teams, the local culture that made all of these individual firms successful. There's a reason why they're successful, and a lot of it is at that local level, right? So that's where the trust lives. You don't integrate trust by rewriting everything on day one, okay? So what we're going to do is I think we'll standardize the backbone first, right? Consistent standards, the shared infrastructure, the better tools, while trying to continue to preserve what's already worked for everybody. The goal is continuity with improvement, not just change for change's sake.
Yep.
You know, and to me, I think that's kind of the critical component that we need to carry forward from our legacy practices to continue to make Kintra successful.
Hard to add to that.
But yeah, I mean, the human relationships is really, and I think anybody in this industry would agree, or most industries like that we all work in, is that relationship piece is critical. So to preserve that, I think is going to be the keystone to the success of this.
Completely agree. Anything to add on your side, Andy?
One thing to add is that what we've been doing together is very similar to what we have done apart for the last many years, knowing each other. And that is bringing our best practices together to become better together. So this idea of transitioning from independent to interdependent, we really need to protect exactly what you said, all those human elements. But I know that there's things that you're doing, that Jim Cox is doing, that others are doing, that I've been learning from. And by pulling those best to do something better, I think that everybody wins. So it's taking that best of each of us and enhancing that.
That's a great point. I mean, the ability to understand where each unique individual's strengths are and leverage that and try to figure out a way in some form of osmosis of sharing that with others so that you can build on those. You all have successful firms. It's not as though coming together made your firms more successful. You, as you said, Nick, you built very successful businesses, and you're able to leverage those together now as opposed to independently.
And specifically, we're looking to align with others that can further add to that.
Correct.
So we didn't come together saying that we have all the answers. We came together to say, we've got a lot of things figured out, but we can always improve. And as we're talking with other firms, and there's many that we're talking with right now, we're specifically looking for people and firms that can add value to enhance what we're doing. So, as you often refer to, we're building a new ecosystem. And this ecosystem, we want to be very particular about who is adding to this and improving this. We're not just looking to acquire or grow for growth's sake. And we missed one of the core values. We've been having a lot of fun for a long time, and we intend to do this to have a really great time. So we can enhance our personal lives with this professional experience, and I think that's a really key element about what we're doing here at Kintra. Let's do some great work, be the best that we can be, and have a lot of fun with our friends and our teammates as we do it.
That's right. It's about enjoying it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.